Welcome back to the beautiful shores of Milwaukee. This is Myth Informed, a Mythicist Milwaukee podcast. Look for the premiere of the movie Batman and Jesus, produced in collaboration with King's Tower Productions as part of Myth Information Conference 4 on September 30th, 2017. An audience for the Batman and Jesus movie premiere include Seth Andrews, creator and host of The Thinking Atheist, atheist celebrity Aaron Ra, Mythicist scholar Dr. Richard Carrier, Naked Mormonism podcast creator and host Bryce Blankenagel, CEO of Atheist Republic Allie Jackson, and a slew of other guests. The Myth Information Conference will include the very exciting buzzed belief debate titled Islam in the Age of Trump between Asra Nomani and Faisal Saeed al-Muhtar that will be moderated by Matt Dillahunty. The conference will also include a lineup of speakers such as London-based YouTube juggernaut Sargon of Akkad, also YouTube sensations Armored Skeptic and Shoe on Head, and Global Humanist Secular Movement editor Melissa Chen. We will also be hosting a special VIP party where VIP ticket holders will be privy to a private presentation by Ron Miscavige, father of David Miscavige, the leader of Scientology, on his experience with Scientology during and after his escape. To learn more or to purchase tickets for Myth Information Conference 4, visit us at mythicistmilwaukee.com. Now, back to the show.
Today is May 3rd, 2017. I'm Joseph here with Dimitri.
Hey, everyone.
Today we are speaking with Ben Fama Jr., a documentary filmmaker and fellow free-thinking podcast host. His latest project is Reasons to Believe, which was just released in February of this year. Ben, welcome to Myth Informed.
Hey, guys. Thank you so much. I really appreciate being on your show.
Absolutely. Our pleasure.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah. Now, Ben, we know from past interviews that you value dissenting opinion and being able to talk to folks who have different perspectives. So I really hate to disappoint you. But unfortunately, we can't offer you that today because we're big fans of your work and we're totally on message.
Okay. Sounds good. I'll find something to argue about if you guys want to, but no, it's all good. I'm glad to actually be on the same side of somebody for once and not arguing with somebody.
It's
it's
a
good.
Weird feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, it is actually.
Yeah. So I wanted to start from the very beginning, and that gets into Roman Catholicism, which is what you were raised in, and obviously being quite spiritual. So I would think that you describe yourself a little differently nowadays, and I just wanted you to walk us through that journey, kind of what shaped the change.
Yeah, so starting off as a child, I did go to church. I was baptized Roman Catholic. I went to church every single Sunday up until the time I was pretty much a teenager. Now, my parents divorced when I was really young, so my dad was the one that was mainly Catholic, so I went to church with him. Didn't have any problems with the church. I wasn't mad at the church. I wasn't mad at my dad. Wasn't mad at anything. I don't know, I got older and I kind of felt like didn't really make any sense to me in the first place, and I kind of just drifted away from the church. But I still did believe in God, even though I didn't go to church. And at that time, I started to drift more towards New Age, spiritual New Age, and that was because of my mom. And so I would see that she would have books about UFOs and crystals and meditation. Channeling was a big thing. So as I got older, I started asking her questions because she never really talked about it too much. And I can remember, being 15, 16 years old and having psychic people coming to our house, people channeling aliens, asking questions and stuff. So I got really deep into that side of it more than I did religion. Even though I still believed in God, I stopped being religious, but I really got deep into the whole UFOs, spiritual New Age side of it. But I still studied both. I still studied religion, still studied spirituality.
Wait, you had psychics coming to your house and doing you had psychics coming to your house and doing seances?
Yeah, actually, I have this on I was going to put this in my film, but I decided to not do it. But I actually have a tape where there was a psychic medium who was channeling an entity in my house. And you can hear me as a kid asking him questions. He was channeling kind of like what Bashar does and those people that think they're talking to aliens. Well, that's what he was doing. And I was actually, back then, I was fascinated by it, because I didn't know it wasn't real. And so I asked a lot of questions about myself, my future, what was going on. And I was always surrounded by people that believed in UFOs and believed in psychics and believed in spiritual things. And I was actually turned on to this book that completely changed my life back then called The Great Shift. It's by a man named what's his name? His spiritual name is Kirel. I can't remember his actual real name anymore. But anyways, to make a long story short, This is right before 1998, 1999, right before 2000, you know, when everybody thought the world was going to end in 2000. Mm-hmm. This book basically said that there was going to be this spiritual awakening on this planet, to where when we would ascend to this higher dimension, we would be seeing, you know, aliens, we'd be seeing higher forms of life beings, and that we had to go through this transitional stage where the world would have to come to an end during 3 days of darkness. So to me, that was profound. While I'm trying to search for my truth, you know, trying to search through psychic abilities and spirituality. And I was really worried that when 2000 came, that the end of the world was actually going to happen around that time because of this book. It had a profound effect on me. Wow. And like most people, 2000 came and I was like,
nothing happened.
And I made excuses like most other people. So that started my first journey, just asking more questions. But I got deeper into spirituality from there on.
But now that when you look back at those folks, I mean, do you think they were con artists? Or was it just people who deluded themselves into thinking that they were actually channeling spirits?
You know, I got two different opinions on it. One, I do think they're con artists. I think they're bullshit artists, honestly, and I get really upset about them. And I don't hold that back. I think a lot of these people are conning innocent people into thinking that these people are going to solve people's problems. So I do put my foot down. Having said that, I don't believe everyone who believes them are stupid people or dumb. And that's another reason why I'm very adamant in saying that, unfortunately, good people are getting caught up in bad belief systems. And that's why I do what I do and I speak out against it.
So how do you look back and think that they got you to believe that at that age?
Yeah.
I think it's like most people, you know, when you're young, you're kind of impressionable, and I don't think anyone was being ill-willed. I don't think they were trying to take advantage of me by any means. I think it was just, you know, just like in life, you have a lot of questions about life. And to me, when you're curious, you're going to ask questions that'll lead you to certain paths. And for me, these paths seemed like they made sense, you know, and I did have other experiences, you know, in other churches where I did feel like I was being brainwashed and stuff was happening on that level. But I think I was just like most people when you turn to a psychic or you turn to a spiritual leader or even religion. Some people are looking for answers in life. They're just trying to ask hard questions and they feel like this is the pathways and these things make sense.
Mm-hmm. But like if you're sitting there and they said that they just received a communication from an alien, in what way did they present that made it feel authentic? Like that they weren't just saying that?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I mean, looking back at it now, I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking, right? but in that moment, I guess it was the technique about how they were coming across information. Because, you know, when you're young, you don't really question too many things. And so for me, it was the way he was presenting the information. The way that they changed their voice. I'm sure you see a lot of these psychic people like Bashar and I don't know, who's that lady that's from What the Bleep Do We Know? Like a lot of people believe
Miss Cleo.
Yeah, the way that they actually present the information and the tones of how they do it and the way they present it can seem believable, because you think, okay, well, their personality is like X, but they're acting like Y, and they normally wouldn't know that for Y. Now, if you're not trained on critical thinking or how to think or what to believe, you're going to be susceptible to that. I don't think it's really that much different than a car salesman or someone trying to bullshit you like as a con artist, right? You're not stupid. It's just being presented to you in a way that seems credible at the moment, but you got to dig deeper to see past it, if that makes any sense. And if you're willing to want information so badly that you're willing to listen to anybody, you're going to justify and rationalize why that makes sense to you, even though it may seem stupid to everybody else.
Well, I think it's the Enya soundtrack in the background that's really making you believe whatever they're saying.
Yeah, and I, you know, that's funny you say that, but it actually has a lot to do. Music has a lot to do with the way that people are emotionally gravitating towards these messaging. I mean, it really is symbolic to how people are emotionally attached to meaning and feeling. And when you're in a church or you're in a spiritual religious ceremony and you have this music, you know, emotions can outweigh logic. We know this. You know, you talk to people, you give them facts till you're blue in the face, but they care more about their emotions than they do the logic. So music has a great way of enticing you to be more emotional towards information.
Oh, well, I think your surroundings too. So to give a little background, I mean, you currently live in Sedona, and I think that's where you grew up, right?
Yeah. I moved here 6 years ago from Las Vegas.
Okay. And so Sedona, by the way, gorgeous place. I was just there in December, and Joseph's been there as well. So tons of great hiking, but that's not also what it's known for. It's a hugely spiritual, mystic rocks, whatever, pools of water that have energy in them. all of this stuff, this mysticism, that's really the the crux of the place. And does that really gel with the type of work that you do, and obviously the message it's trying to get out to the public?
Yeah, definitely not. And I'm definitely a black sheep here, make no mistake about it. But when I moved here 6 years ago, that's not where I was at. And that's what's ironic about the whole thing is that, we moved here right before 2012. And back then I was into conspiracy theories. I was into the whole 2012 Mayan prophecy stuff. I was really getting into, deep with like Terrence McKenna and like the Mayans. And I felt like I was on this spiritual journey and I was looking for answers. And in fact, back then I've always wanted to do documentary filmmaking, but back then I thought I was going to make a documentary kind of like What the Bleep Do We Know, where I was going to figure out the connection between science and spiritualism. Like I really was on that path to understanding it. And I thought, okay, well, Sedona is where I need to be. And I just started finding patterns over and over and over. When I first met my wife, I thought I was finding all these connections between me and her, all these coincidences, like the secret law of attraction, there was all these different things that were happening to me at the time that I thought were spiritual awakenings. And I felt like I had to be here in Sedona. But ironically, coming to Sedona was kind of what pushed me over the edge of being a skeptic, because I was already non-believing of religion. I got into Christopher Hitchens and Richard Dawkins, and you would think that would have been enough. That you think that me discrediting religion would have been like, for me to discredit everything else. But I was still holding on to conspiracy theories and spirituality. Now, to be fair, when we came out here, I was on my way out anyways. Like I was already starting to be skeptical, but I was like, I just needed to know. And I kind of drew a line basically when I came out here. I was going to try to find some answers, even though I was becoming more and more skeptical. But in a weird way, December 2012 was going to be my final holdout, if that makes any sense. Because I was already wrong in 2000. And I thought, okay, well, maybe the Mayans are correct. Maybe Terrence McKenna was right. Maybe the Ida Ching is correct, And I kept watching documentary after documentary about this shit. And I knew nothing was really going to happen, but I was like, there's got to be a point where I got to stop being wrong. And that's what I kind of got tired of, was being wrong about the things I believed in. And once December 2012 hit, I was like, I'm done.
World didn't end.
And the world didn't end. And I didn't make any excuses. I didn't, I was just like, okay, it is what it is. But I told myself at that moment that even though I was a skeptic, I said, I'm going full force with this now. I was like, I'm no longer going to put myself in any position where I'm wrong about reality and that I'm wrong about the things that I think and believe. And believe me, this is not the only thing I was wrong about. I was wrong about many other things. And so I was tired of finding the wrong answers. And so I made it a mission in my life to go out and try to the best of my ability to find real truth and real purpose and real meaning in life, and not depending on these outdated ways of thinking and believing, but being in Sedona and being surrounded by other people in this community, in the spiritual community, because it is the spiritual capital of the world.
Right.
Deepak Chopra comes out here. Mm-hmm. So and it's funny because I surround myself with a lot of people in this industry out here, and they know my position, and I challenge them, and I'm not necessarily popular for it. Now, I get along with a lot of the people here, even though I have a different point of view, but it's not like I'm just sitting here picking on spirituality or religion. I'm surrounded completely by it. I'm surrounded by people in this industry about it, and I question them just the same.
So are people not selling you a bagel just because you're making these documentaries? Or I mean, what's your connection with the community then, given the fact that you're so contrarian?
Well, so I think it's a two-part. There's a really lot of great people that are out here in Sedona. Don't get me wrong, and I don't want to paint Sedona as it's all these.
Well, yeah, you have to live with them.
Yeah, and but not just that, because it's also not true. There's a lot of people here that don't like the spiritual stuff here, and there's a lot of people that do come here for that. So the community is. I've had kind of like this love-hate relationship with them. There's a lot of people that I know that even think different than me that I get along with great, and they understand why I make the films that I have. In fact, when I premiered this film here at the Sedona International Film Festival, there was a lot of people that, including believers, that were there that supported me. So I know a lot of good people, and I think that's another reason why I wanted to make a film that was more about just the facts and not picking on people, but really just trying to give people something they can just sink their teeth into and watch and gain the facts. Having said that, I've had my battles here with some people when I call bullshit on things. I call bullshit on the vortexes. I call bullshit on the conspiracies and the UFO stuff. And I've been attacked many times. I've been doxxed here, in fact, by people who lost their minds and wanted to post my personal home address because I attacked their sacred, whatever bullshit that they have. And I don't have the patience to sit here and hold people's hands for people that want to do that. Now, if you want to have an honest conversation, I'm more than willing to sit down and have an honest conversation with you. And a lot of people out here will have that. But for the other people out here that want to be cult-like people and want to live in a bubble out here, which is a lot of people, and they know who they are, I have no problem calling bullshit on them. Wow. You know, and I don't think Sedona's been used to it. I don't think Sedona has had somebody like me here that's ruffled as many feathers. You know what I'm saying? But my purpose isn't just to ruffle feathers. It's really to get people to think differently. And I'm not any different than most of the people here. I just learned to change my mind.
Mm-hmm. But that's awesome. I mean, this latest project that you've got, and again, I'm going to plug it because it's phenomenal. The Reasons to Believe. It's definitely a, like I mentioned, a contrarian point of view, and it's likely why the folks in Sedona are a little ruffled. And I wanted to talk about that. So it explores the psychology of belief. Your movie tagline, which is brilliant, is sometimes the truth is unbelievable. And I get the real world implications, especially with the political atmosphere we've got today. So the central question of the movie is, why in the face of facts do people still insist on believing what they want? Did you set out to do that and to start with that question?
Yes, that's absolutely the premise of the film. And ironically, you know, I started this film 3 years ago. I didn't know we'd be in the political landscape that we are right now. It's just perfect timing.
Well, you fell into it. Wow.
For me, it was more of, you know, I was more known for a film called A Virus Called Fear, where I questioned about how fear distorts people's perceptions of reality. It's free online. People could check it out. Mm-hmm. But what I found what was amazing is that when I did present facts to people, when I was being honest, when I was being sincere, no matter how much facts that I told people and said, hey, look, just there's another way to look at this, they would not change their mind. And I was like, why is that? Why is it that I'm running into so many people that are so hell-bent on staying and not accepting facts or changing the facts or twisting them? So I really wanted to know, why do people believe what they believe? And the other thing I wanted to do was, I didn't want to just make a film about atheism, because obviously there's a lot of really great, smart people that are already up about atheism. And we do talk about atheism in the film. I wanted to expand it on belief, period, conspiracy theory, spirituality, because that's more up my alley. You know what I mean? It wasn't just religion. It was conspiracy theories. It was these other belief systems. And I wanted to make it broad enough to show, why don't people believe in vaccines? Why is it that we have, in a day of alternative facts, why don't people change their minds? It really was the premise of me trying to figure out the reasons why people believe.
It's an incredible message. And actually, so I don't know if folks know, but Joseph, who's my co-host, is also kind of an amateur documentarian, and he's in the process of making his first project. So, you know, looking at this film and kind of how you brought all the pieces together, and especially the wider message, so going beyond just atheism, going to belief in general, is definitely something that we're trying to incorporate into our project as well.
Yeah, I'm working on my first documentary, but I've done a number of films before this that were just narrative. So I noticed that I was checking out your IMDb page, looking at the stats of the doc, and I noticed that you guys so you said 3 years, and it says that you were working with 10 grand. Knowing from my perspective of making films for 10 grand, what sort of difficulties did you face, and how large of a team could you afford with that kind of money?
You know, ironically, it was just me and my wife that made the film. We tried to bring on other people. It didn't really work out at the time. Most of our expenses really came down to traveling and buying. And some of the scenes in the film are obviously stock footage. I mean, not all of it, but sure. You obviously know there's so many. You can't film every single thing. So Absolutely. Between stock footage and traveling, I think was the biggest expense, honestly. And then just coming up with extra rentals for extra cameras and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, so were you guys traveling to interview people, or what kind of traveling did you do for the film?
Yeah, so we obviously, being from Arizona, we traveled to California to interview Michael Shermer, traveled to Portland State University to interview Peter Boghossian. Jennifer's also in California. We actually drove all the way out to Oklahoma to interview Kayla Black. Now, there are 4 interviews in the film we didn't end up putting in the film. We just ran out of time and budget to put them in the film. Maybe we'll do an extended kind of like behind the scenes with them, but I actually interviewed Seth Andrews from The Thinking Atheist. He didn't make the cut. And then I actually had 4 believers that I interviewed in the film. Betsy Chasse, who's the co-director of What the Bleep Do We Know? I interviewed her because I'm actually good friends with her. So I went to California, interviewed her. Actually, she came out here and interviewed her. And then went and interviewed Joe Dispenza. I don't know if you guys have ever seen What the Bleep Do We Know? Or I don't even know if you guys know what the film is. But no. It's a documentary film. It's one of the biggest spiritual documentary films of all time. There's a guy named Joe Dispenza in it. I interviewed him. And another guy named Michael Horn. So it was a lot of different traveling, but I actually interviewed other people that believe different things, and I probably still am going to put that out there, but I didn't have the budget to put it in right now. So
you know what's awesome is we've got Seth Andrews actually coming to the Myth Information Conference that we're putting on in September. So
yeah, I saw that.
That might be. I mean, if you want to take a trip out to Milwaukee in September is beautiful.
Yeah, that's when we're premiering the movie too. Actually, that I'm working on.
I would love to. In fact, I almost wish I could have had this film into. It was funny because I heard about you guys, and I had Richard Carrier on my podcast, but nice. I didn't finish the film in enough time to get it out. I really wanted to be a part of this event. When I saw it, I was like, this would be the perfect opportunity to have this film. But you guys have a really great lineup this year, and I, like I said, even if I can't make it, and I'd love to make it, I think people should definitely come out and see it because you guys did a great job getting the people you have this year. So
yeah, and we also have tables in the lobby. There's going to be a lot of different people promoting their stuff there, so there's always a chance to expose the movie that way.
Yeah, and if you're thinking of doing some kind of extended cut, and that's one that has Seth in it, that just think about it as an opportunity to to be able to publicize your work.
Yeah, for sure.
It'd be sweet. So with the religious folks that may be kind of affected by this type of movie, have you received any kind of, antagonized reaction, or has it more been of an open-minded one where folks are seeing it, they know it's not focused on religion, but maybe there's discussion that's generated?
Yeah, so it's kind of weird. It's hard to say. I haven't gotten any real negative stuff coming back. I do have a couple people that will walk out of the theater, and I can tell it struck a chord with them, which I tried my best to not be... I tried my best to not be an asshole in the film, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I really tried to just present facts for people to look at, and I didn't just focus on religion. So I don't really know why people feel the need to leave, but I guess I understand why. But I tried my best to really just present it where they didn't feel like they were stupid or dumb, because there's no reason for that. I think most people want to see the facts. I did have a little bit of blowback of people saying, well, why didn't you put the believers in the film? Maybe you're being biased to the, and I'm like, look, I got to present the argument. And these are the people that made the film are the people with the PhDs that understand the argument. It's not that I even wanted to cut it out, but if I had another editor that I could afford to have, I would have a more objective film where I could present both sides. But if I'm editing my own film, how objective can I actually be? Because even if I put them in there, people can bitch at me and say, well, you weren't being objective to this. And so I didn't want to do that. I was like, I'm just going to put my point of view here. And I'm still thinking about releasing the full interviews with the believers. That way there's, people can just observe them, look at them, and see the conversation. But so that's pretty much the extent that I've gotten so far. I'd say mostly everybody that's seen it I've had positive reviews. I've taken it to skeptic, local skeptic things here. I've gone to in Vegas. We showed it with Peter Boghossian there, had a Q&A from there. Just so far, it's been really positive. And Peter Boghossian even said that he's going to make it required viewing for his philosophy class out in Portland. So it's a lot of positive stuff going on right now with it.
That's great. So this particular film is your longest documentary you've done, correct?
Yes, it's actually my first full length. I've done short films before, but this is my first full length.
So what was different about doing it in a longer format? What did you have to change about your style or approach?
I think it's actually getting the information in where, it's funny because a short is actually harder because you got to try to condense that information a lot more. With A Virus Called Fear, I had to really cut out a lot more stuff. What I like about full-length features is you actually have more time to put it in. So I actually like the full length format a lot more, but it is a lot more of everything. It's a lot more money. It's a lot more time, but I also it's only an hour long, but I also did it for that reason that I feel like with such intense information, people can only handle so much information at a time, if that makes sense. Like I've had people actually tell me at screenings, like, that's a lot of information for me to take in at once. And I'm like, that's okay. That's why you have the film. You can watch it again, which is funny because I didn't think I had enough of it in there. So, but I wanted to be at an hour so it's consumable, that people can watch it. Plus, if people want to show it at schools, they have that hour block that they can put it in there instead of the hour and a half, whatever format.
That makes sense.
Now, interviewing all these folks, Peter and the rest of the people that are in the movie, the concepts that you learned, and obviously they're very well-educated folks that you're talking to. What was the most striking thing that you got from them that you ended up incorporating in the movie?
That's a good question. I think for me, it's more about how we have to learn to be a little bit more patient on how we present our arguments to people, because again, with the backfire effect, which I don't go over a lot in the film, but I do bring it up. People are going to be more entrenched in their ideas. So I think it's more about how do we present these arguments to people where we're being authentic, but we also listen to what they have to say and that they can listen to us. I think it's easy. Like, I come from the school of Christopher Hitchens. Like, I'd rather just, be a spitfire and go off on somebody. You know what I mean? And I'm sorry?
No, hitch slap them. Exactly.
Yeah, hitch slap, yeah.
Right in the face with the truth.
Exactly. And so, and I have no problem with being blunt and forthright. That's what Peter Boghossian says in the film. But I think the thing that I took away from it is really just understanding really why do people think the way they think. And again, it's not because they're stupid or dumb. And I do say, yes, there are stupid and dumb people out there that do stupid and dumb things. Like the president, I believe, is fucking stupid and dumb. I'm sorry. But most people that come to their beliefs are not stupid and dumb. I wasn't any more stupid or dumb for believing the things that I believed. It's just I had a different way of how I was processing reality. And when I understood how I was understanding how I processed that reality, I had a better chance of changing my mind. There was no atheist or there was no person beating down my door telling me I was wrong. It was me asking questions, and I kept running into Michael Shermer and other people out there who slowly changed my mind. So it's really about planting a seed and knowing that it takes a very long time, years sometimes, for people to change their mind. So that's what I'd say I take away from something that surprised me more than just presenting facts to people.
Now, did your approach change? Because I find recently, especially with the political climate, it gets tough to talk to family and whoever it is. And, you try to present information, and obviously we can't be 100% right all the time. But if you feel you're right, I've found that presenting information as statements doesn't seem to work. And I have to twist it somehow into a question so that the individual comes to the conclusion themselves by internalizing the question and coming to the answer. So is that relevant in the conversations that you had? And have you changed your approach to talking to people to get them to internalize information?
Yeah, I think I have, in that sense that I think it is better when you ask them questions and try to get where they're coming from and get them to think about it on their own, instead of attacking them or getting statements and trying to figure out, well, okay, how did you come to that conclusion? What made you think that way? And I really think that I'm trying to get better at doing that when I'm having one-on-one conversations. Like online, people know I'll spitfire, I'll call bullshit on the president, whatever. But I've had many, many conversations where I sit down with someone who had a different point of view than me and just ask them, okay, well, how did you come to this conclusion? And have you thought about this? Or have you thought about this? Or, or I try to do like what Peter Boghossian says with street epistemology, and I try to look at other ways of thinking and say, well, why do you think those people think that way? So if I talk to my Christian friends, I say, okay, well, I'm not here to change your mind, but let's say that a Muslim thinks X and he believes this much about X as you do. What do you think is going on there? And I think when you ask them the questions and you approach it and you're respectful to them, they're more responded to it. Now, they're not going to change their mind even right there. And I think we want everyone to change their mind, and we have to stop doing that. We have to say, we need to plant a seed for them to think about it. And all these people right now in this day and age where I'm going to unfriend this, you voted for Trump, I'm not going to talk to you anymore, you're a liberal. Like, it's all bullshit. Like, you're going to give up years of your friendship and your family because of who they voted for. Like, it's bullshit, And I call bullshit on the left too. The left does the same thing with their freedom of speech bullshit. Absolutely. And them writing
the regressivism
and
coming out of Berkeley. And
exactly. And it's pissing me off because I got even friends on the left who are unfriending me over this shit. I'm like, oh wow, so you're all my buddy because I'm calling out the right and all these belief systems. But when you do the same shit and you're authoritarian, you're now going to be mad at me. I was like, but in the end, I'm not willing to give up my friendship and my family over this stuff. It's about having a civil discussion and really sitting down and talking to somebody, because despite popular belief, we're more than our politics and our belief. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and family and friends are people that are going to be there no matter what. And I know that the people that are in my life that respect what it is I do, even if they don't really respect what it is I do, they might respect me. And that's what I give a shit more about. And I'm not going to lose that. And if we can't have a civil discussion, we think we have to punch Nazis in the face to get our message across, then we're not really critical thinkers. We're not really, we're not being any better of human beings. And I really want to challenge that.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like picking the sports team of the city you were born in. It's not much thought behind it than that for a lot of people.
Oh, of course. It's tough for us, though, and Ben, from the sound of it, I mean, you're just as blunt as I am. I mean, that's a double-edged sword. We get a message across, but at the same time, I don't know, I tend to piss a lot of people off if I'm as blunt as I really want to be in my mind. And that gets, I mean, I find myself censoring all the time, not saying what I want to, because you want to preserve those relationships. You're absolutely right. Your friends, your family, that's it. That's all you have. Everyone else is a Facebook follower, a like, or a Twitter follower, whatever it is. Those people don't count.
Right. And it's about the context of it, too. If you're going to jump on my Facebook and call me an asshole because I questioned your religion, or you start saying, well, science is a religion, and you just start doing dumb shit. Well, you didn't even come to the conversation with respect. I don't owe you any respect. You know what I mean? You're just a troll. And nowadays we keep feeding trolls. That's what Milo is. And people are like, well, why do you think it's okay that Milo talks? Because I still support freedom of speech. I don't have to agree with it. But again, why are you going to start riots over a clown? Like, he's a clown. He's a fucking clown. Stop giving him all this credit that he doesn't even need to have. Like, stop. You know what I mean? Like, you people are losing your minds over people that don't even need to have attention. Just stop giving them attention.
Yeah. You do enough of that, you get a president.
Yeah, and then you get this shithead. And people think, well, you're just mad because, Hillary lost. I don't give a shit that Hillary lost. I don't even care. I mean, if this guy was a Democrat, I'd be saying the same exact thing. And first off, I'm an independent. I'm not a registered Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I think I'm like most people in this country, independent. But to me, if I have to explain to you what is actually wrong with this clown in office, then there's something wrong. I don't need to go out of my way to explain stupid shit if you think that you're being wiretapped by our prior president, okay? Or that some people think it's, well, you're just mad because you're calling him racist. I'm not calling him racist. I mean, I'm not saying he's not racist. My problem is he's a conspiracy theorist, right? He fucks up the facts. Like, that's still a problem. When you deny climate change, when you think that the president is from another country, when you think Alex Jones is a credible source of your fucking information, sorry, dude. Like, what do you want me to say? Like, oh yeah, I'm okay with that. Like, well, I don't live.
I mean, you have to, at some point, you have to get out of your bubble. That's the thing. And the great thing is your movie forces that conversation, right? So it brings people from differing viewpoints together. And so you've made a piece of art, a piece of work. Now folks are coming together. They're either bashing you for it or they're interviewing you like we are and talking about it to put it into the forefront of mainstream, kind of pop culture. So at least having that conversation is a way to break these barriers and get out of our bubbles and talk to folks we normally wouldn't.
Yes, I agree. And I think we definitely need not only need to have the conversation, but we need to learn to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I think that's the problem is we are in these bubbles and we don't look at anybody's point of view at all. And we think, oh, I'm right. And I'm the type of person that no matter how uncomfortable another point of view is, I'll at least listen to it if they try to bring some respect to the conversation. And what I mean by that is I will watch an argument from someone who's religious or conservative or whatever if they're trying to present the argument, because how do I know that I'm right in my position unless I'm listening to the other position to know that, right? Like, I don't want to be one of those people like when I was back in my 20s where I believed there was weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, and so did most people in this country, and everybody just went forth and was in the cult of the Iraq war, and hardly anybody questioned it, right? The only way you're going to know if you're right about your position is first off, you got to be willing to accept that you could be wrong. And for anything that I do, I'm willing to accept that I could be wrong about it. It's okay. It sucks. I fucking hate it, but I hate being wrong enough to know that I would stay wrong. And so to me, I always try to listen to an argument different than mine just to be sure, one, do I understand the argument? And I may not understand every argument, but one, do I understand the argument? And two, how do I know that my position is correct? How do I know that what I know is correct? And if we keep living in these damn bubbles and we keep just listening to CNN and just listening to Fox and just listening to what we want to hear about reality, we could be missing out on valuable information. I really do think that is what the problem is with the alternative facts and the reason why we believe what we believe in society. We have a cognitive bias to what makes us feel good about our beliefs and what we want to see to be real. And anything that makes us feel uncomfortable, we're going to run away from it. We're going to try to do whatever that makes us feel uncomfortable. And it's not just religion. It's drugs. It's sex. It's all these other types of systems we run to when we're uncomfortable. Well, that's what religion, spirituality, and politics and ideology is. It's systems of people that are uncomfortable, that are being told, like Donald Trump is telling people right now, things that are going to make them comfortable, even if it's a lie. And that's the bullshit we need to call out. And that's the bullshit we need to stand up to say something and saying, look, we've got to get real with ourselves. We've got to grow up as a society. We've got to grow up and face hard problems so we can solve them, so we can have real comfortability, right? Like, to me, science is having real comfortability. It's like, it's saying, okay, I'm dying of cancer. I'm going to go out and figure out the best solution possible for me to heal my cancer. Right. I'm in poverty. I'm going to find the best solution possible for me to get out of poverty. Making shit up, going to alternative medicine, going to a psychic guru. These aren't going to solve our problems. None of this shit is going to solve our problems. And as long as we keep allowing bad beliefs and bad ideology into our system, we're not going to solve our problems.
What have you heard about this this new concept that Jimmy Wales just came up with, the Wiki Tribune? It's I just heard about it yesterday and I already funded it, but it's the whole open source media. It's essentially open source news. So it's the same concept that Wikipedia has, but for a news organization. And so this new idea is supposed to be combating the alternative facts framework and making it so that we're policing ourselves for false information. It's fabulous, and I think it really ties into what you were just talking about, where we need to really pull ourselves up as a society and start policing ourselves to be better people.
Right. You know, that's a great point, because that is what science is. It's basically saying, I don't care what you believe. It's what can you prove? And science is a self-correcting process. So why not use that same application in news and media? As long as we're being honest with ourselves, and that's what we're accepting about it. And I think as long as people are being, and what I mean by honest is saying that I'm okay that I'm wrong about it. Like, if I find out the facts, I can change my mind about it for the sake of the truth. And then once we understand more of the truth, we can make better decisions about it. And so why not use that same process in the media? Now, I don't know how you determine which one is fake and which one's not. I mean, other than, you know, because then people are going to say, well, who's the arbiter of truth there? Who's the person that's responsible for determining this? But that's what, there is no authoritarian figure. There's not one person that's in control of this process. So double checking each other, checking each other's facts, saying, you know, like when people come onto my post, say, Ben, that statistic that you posted or that article was wrong. And I go and I find out it's wrong. I'm like, oh, great. We should be happy. Like, okay, I know that's not correct. I'll take it down, you know, and we should be okay to say, one, I don't know. And two, okay, I was wrong, and not punish people because they were wrong.
Yeah. So throughout the course of your life, who were some other documentary filmmakers that challenged beliefs that you held that may have inspired or influenced you to taking this path?
I would say the first two, which is ironic, I'm on the opposite side of it now, but the first two that came to mind was, the first one was Michael Moore's Fahrenheit 9/11. Now, I debate that film now, but that was the film to me, because I was a staunch believer that there was weapons of mass destruction. Like, I really was not political. I was not anything before I saw that film. Legitimate. I couldn't tell you the difference between a Democrat and a Republican. I didn't really know what Islam was. I mean, I didn't care if you believed or not believed. But I was so entrenched in my beliefs that there was weapons of mass destruction. So that film made me wake up. Having said that, it took me down the conspiracy theory path, where I started watching the Zeitgeist films and the Loose Change films and all the other.
I was about to say, you were probably so into that.
Yeah, and I was hardcore into it. Like, that's what I'm saying. I was a conspiracy theorist. I really believed in the New World Order. I was into David Icke. Of course, I didn't buy into the reptilian bullshit. I don't know how people got into that part of it, but I definitely thought the New World Order, our government's hiding something, you know. And I was really into it. And that was what influenced me. But I would say the one that actually really influenced me more than any other film that's out there, the documentarian, is Errol Morris's Fog of War. To me, I've seen thousands of documentaries. That, to me, is still my all-time favorite documentary. And it was because he told such a story of the importance of understanding history and understanding ourselves. It was about this guy who had a perception of what he thought was the correct thing to do, you know, in Vietnam. If most people don't know what Fog of War is, it's about Robert McNamara from the Vietnam War. He was the Secretary of State or Secretary of Defense. Secretary of Defense. I'm sorry. And but it was a story of him looking back at the Vietnam War and the mistakes that they made. And this was around the same time that George Bush was in Iraq. And it really painted a picture of what we don't learn from history. And to me, I love stories like that. And I think that's what we need to be doing, is re-examining what we think we know about reality. So I would say that film and that filmmaker is what drove me into wanting to do filmmaking. But I didn't get into politics. Even though I do politics, I'm more about the story of psychology. Most of my films are psychology films. People think I'm an atheist skeptic, you know, whatever. I am, but it's really about psychology. Why do we think the way we think? Why do we do the things we do? What have we not learned throughout time? And what are the mistakes we keep making with the psychological human mind? That film does such a great job of just looking back and telling that story of why we believed what we believed and the mistakes we made and the people got killed for believing something was true, if that makes any sense.
No, it does. And it's funny that you mentioned you're not a political filmmaker because we watched a virus called Fear. And hoping to very shortly watch Reasons to Believe. And they both, while they don't overtly get into politics, you can definitely read into undertones. And I mean, if you wanted to digitally remaster a virus called Fear and release it here in 2017, it would be 100% applicable to the current climate we've got.
Right. No, I appreciate that. And it does come from me originally wanting to be a political filmmaker. And you're right. I think the reason why I don't call myself a political filmmaker, even though I have political undertones, is I feel like there's better filmmakers out there to really do those films. Like I love watching, political films, but I feel like there's already a lot of those out there. What I don't feel that there's a lot of, and the niche that I hope to fill is not only, secularism, but really psychology. I mean, I love psychology probably more than I love anything. And I love studying people and sociology and why we do what we do. So a lot of my films are just questioning how we do something. For example, it's the same thing when it comes to being an atheist, right? Like I listen to a lot of people like Matt Dillahunty or Sam Harris, and these guys are just brilliant. There's no way I'm going to compare knowing how they know what they know about the arguments. Richard Carey is a perfect example. I had him on my podcast, and I know you guys work with him, and it's like, they're just brilliant at what they're doing, and there's no way I'm going to do that. But I can ask the questions, well, why do we do that? Why is it that we think that way? Why do we do the things we do? What causes us to do that? So I'm more interested in those questions than I am just, here's the facts, if that makes any sense.
Well, and giving these guys a platform to be able to deliver their message to the public.
Yes, and that's the other thing is I noticed that there's a lot of books out there. There's a lot of podcasts even. There's a lot of different things out there, but I don't see that many films that are out there, and I'm glad that there's films. I know you guys have the Batman and Jesus. Is that the one that's coming? Yeah. I'm glad that I feel like this is the year where more of these type of films are coming out. I know that I've been waiting for A Year Without God to come out. There's a lot of these films that are starting to come out, which I think needs to fill that void. Because when I turn on Netflix, when I turn on whatever, I don't see these types of films out there. I see all these other, there's many great films, but I don't feel like these types of films out there. There's plenty of books. There's plenty of all these other things, but there's not enough of these type of films out there.
You had The Most Hated Woman in America released recently, and we actually very recently interviewed Tommy O'Haver. It was actually Joseph.
Yeah, we talked to him, and him making that movie about Madalyn Murray O'Hair, which is obviously heavily about atheism, although it's not exactly an atheist movie, but it deals with that topic.
Pretty much all about atheism.
Yeah, exactly. Even though it's not exactly trying to convert you, but it's obviously the subject of the movie. And then, like you're saying, all these films this year. And what I think about, some of the stuff that I'm doing, like working on Batman and Jesus, I certainly think of where I was at even just a few years ago. I felt like I had to sort of keep quiet about these sorts of even opinions, let alone presenting all these facts. And I do feel like it's very much right now is sort of the first time where this even is possible, where people are even willing to accept it. And maybe this decade of a lot of conspiracy theories sort of, in a weird way, opened people's minds to listening to this sort of information.
Well, it's totally becoming mainstream. I mean, your interview, what was it, last week with Larry Decker? The secular activism guy, that was huge. What he says about, listen, write to your congressperson, show up at these events, let them know that we're a huge constituency and you can't just not listen to us anymore. You have to make sure that you treat us as real people that have a vote.
Yeah, I really do think this is the perfect time for skeptics, atheists, freethinkers for that exact reason. I think for the first time, especially in America, the American people are starting to realize what it's like to want to present something that is facts and people not wanting to hear it. And I think people are starting to really question why that is. And I think films like ours gives them that platform for the first time. And what's great is I think that films like yours and films like mine are the forefront of those films for our genre. Because again, there's all these books that are already out there. If I wrote a book, it'd probably just get lost in the book stuff. I think us being the pioneers in the film part of it, I mean, you have Religulous that's out there, and you have some other good, atheist films, which is great. But I think this is the forefront where people are going to be more receptive, because now they're starting to think, okay, I need to rethink why religion is this in our society, or why we're thinking this in society, and how do stories play that, I'm really excited to see, your film and what your thesis is when it comes to Batman and Jesus, because I don't know a lot about it, but if you're getting into storytelling and why people believe in stories and how these stories have developed, that to me is what we need to get into the nitty gritty of, and I'm really excited that we're on that forefront and that edge in the filmmaking part of that.
Yeah, that's true. You look at these subjects and you realize, you can't really, there isn't an existing film that's about these specific topics. It's not even been made yet. So it is exciting to work on something that really is a new way of presenting this information. Not that the information hasn't existed for over 100 years, but this is really the first time that a movie has been able to be made about it, and probably because we can sort of self-finance. You and your wife, it's me and a lot of friends that are mostly doing this. We've had some outside help, like the interviews you got and the interviews I got, but it's largely sort of a very, very independent effort.
Ben, you know what I find funny is when you Google your documentary, Reasons to Believe, it's one of the first hits that you get?
The documentary is, or what is the first hit? I know, because usually the first hit is a Christian website.
That's where I was going with that. So it's a ministry devoted to integrating science and faith, and to demonstrating how the latest science affirms faith in the God of the Bible.
Yes, exactly. And it's kind of funny. I already knew that. And so I'm hoping that eventually when the film comes out and when people know more about it, that it will rank higher. So when people look for that, they actually find the documentary, even though the documentary is at reasonstobelievefilm.com. And I always tell people in my screenings, make sure you put film at the end of reasonstobelievefilm.com, because you're going to go to this other website. But I also wanted to do it as a play on words for that exact reason, because some people are going to look at it and they're going to say, oh, is this trying to confirm my reasons to believe? I'm not trying to be nefarious by any means, but it's kind of that play on that for that exact reason. But also the play on words is, these are reasons you can actually believe in, like reasons to believe, like believing in reason is the whole point of what I'm trying to make. But yeah, I know that's the one thing we say all the time in our screenings. Make sure you type in reasonstobelievefilm.com, because you're going to go to some other Christian website. So.
Yeah, I actually, even probably less than you do, because mine's a little less ambiguous, but even some people hear Batman and Jesus and think, oh, great, this is a way of comparing how great Jesus is with how great Batman is.
Yeah, especially because Jesus was so rich and he had all this money and,
Yeah, so where exactly has your movie played so far, and where could people see it that are listening to this podcast?
Yeah, so we premiered it here at the Sedona International Film Festival, which was really good. We played it in Vegas at the Center for Science and Wonder, and we've played it in a couple of local groups, and then at the University of Oklahoma. We actually have some videos online of some of the Q&As afterwards, which I encourage people to watch, because I'm trying to actually make this a conversation. So if people want to check out, like, they can go to my website at benfamajr.com. All the videos are there. We have a screening this weekend, I believe May 6th in Florida. Now, we won't actually be there for that, but they are screening at the Free Thought Film Festival out there. So if people are in Florida, they can check it out. We just have an announcement. Actually, you guys will probably be the first person to actually know about this. We just found out just recently we will be screening in Portland State University on September 9th? On September 9th with Peter Boghossian at his college in Portland State University. So if people are in Portland, September 9th. We're trying to schedule something for LA where I get everybody in the film, including Shermer, Boghossian, everybody in the film there, but we're still working on that. Once we're done with that kind of mini tour, we're looking at September 11th as being the day we release the film online, like at Amazon, Vimeo, YouTube, cool. For rental, and then maybe eventually Netflix. So
great. I guess last question we have for you before we let you go is, what's next?
Rest. I'm going to sleep. That's my next goal, is to just get some rest, I guess. I've been really thinking about what I really want to do next, and I haven't really thought about it yet. I mean, I've been thinking about it, but there's nothing that really pops out in my mind. So I guess if people want to just follow me on my website, they'll probably know then, because I know I get that question, and then nothing's really stood out to what I'm going to do next. But that's what I kind of like, because when it does, that's when I start focusing 100% on it.
Cool.
Well, next, besides getting the full version ready for MythCon, and premiering that full length version there. Well, Ben, it was an absolute pleasure speaking with you.
Yeah.
Very informative. We have. I love the fact that we have similar, both political and non-religious views. So this was great to have this conversation, and we hope to have you back.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, guys. And I really do appreciate being on your show. And thanks for all the hard work that you guys are out there doing every single day. I know, like I told Larry Decker, it's a thankless job. So I always try to thank the people out there doing the hard work. So thank you, guys.
We appreciate that. And right back
at you, man. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Myth Informed. Myth Informed is brought to you by Mythicist Milwaukee. Producer Sean Frasick. Associate producers Fritz Blondone and Kristen Whitaker Hood. Engineer Josh Benishek. Technical consultant Jason Lawson. And hosts Brian, Dimitri, Jacob, and Joseph. Every week we produce a new podcast that sheds light on religion, secularism, and mythology. If you enjoy this show, please support us on Patreon at patreon.com/mythicist. Mythicist Milwaukee also brings major secular conferences and debates to the Milwaukee area, along with community events, both local and online. To support us in bringing future events, become a member at mythicistmilwaukee.com to receive member-only benefits. You can also visit mythicistmilwaukee.com and hit the donate button located at the bottom of each page to place a financial donation amount of your choice. And now, the closing theme, written and performed by Shelley Siegel.
Athena's wisdom and beauty, and Hades underneath. Isis of fertility, and ether of the Greeks. They all lie at rest, and who will be the next to die? You know they are all myths, and who will be the next to die? There was a time when everyone believed. Helios in the sun, Poseidon in the sea. Athena's wisdom and beauty, and Hades underneath. Isis of fertility, and ether of the Greeks. They all lie at rest, and who will be the next to die? You know they are all myths, and who will be